The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Kathy Dominic from Arguso University in Denver. Aid of Representative Conti. There we go.
Thank you. Good morning. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Cola, please take the roll.
Representatives Becker, Buck, Buckner, Conti, Corum, Court, Representative Court,
Absent.
Del Grosso, Dorr, Duran, Representative Duran,
Absent.
Everett,
Absent.
Exum, Fields, Fisher, Foote,
Duran present.
Garcia, Representative Duran's present. Representative Garcia, Gardner, Giroux, Janal, Hamner, Holbert. He was one of the ones. Excused. Hollinghorst. Madam Majority Leader. Who?
Absent.
Humphrey. Representative Humphrey.
Absent.
Hollinghorst is present. Joshi. Humphrey is present. Joshi is here. Kagan. Kraftharp. Labuda. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lepsock. Lee. May. McCann. McLaughlin. McNulty. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Representative Court is present. Murray. Navarro. Nordberg. Pabon. Representative Pabon. Peniston. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. We got it. Rankin. Rosenthal. Ryden. Same. Okay. Salazar. Schaefer. Scott. Singer. Sonnenberg. Stevens. Swam. Swam excused. Zabo. Tyler. Vigil. Waller. Williams. Wilson. Wright. Young. Speaker Fairnew.
Not by much.
Okay, gotcha.
With 62 members present, 2 excused, 1 absent, a quorum is present. Representative Salazar.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the Journal of March 17, 2014 be dispensed with, and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You've heard the motion. We got a counter. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Representative Salazar read the journal in that voice in its entirety.
That is a proper motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. I agree with Representative McNulty. That's a no. We're back to the original motion. Adoption of the reading of the journal is corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Riden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it's time for another senior moment. Members, you have a flyer on your desk this morning. Just want to draw your attention to what they are calling the gray tsunami. And that means that we are going to have more and more older folks in our community. And I know there are some people who are really worried about this and are already trying to make plans. There are other people that just don't want to hear about it because it's way too scary. But I want you to know that our Older Americans Coalition is really doing a great job of getting the awareness level up about what our issues are coming forward. The baby boom is not done making problems yet. We are still alive and kicking, and the next one's coming, so be prepared.
Representative Court.
We're the historic generation who makes trouble. Folks, I want to announce to you that the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary, they do loans around the state. They're having their 40th anniversary. You all should have heard about this by now. Tomorrow morning, 7:30 to 9, outside the elevators, they're hosting coffee. So go by and thank the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, known as CHAFA, for all the great work they do for Colorado. Thank you.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you have something on your calendar tomorrow morning, bright and early. 7:30 a.m., the Childhood Obesity Prevention Caucus will be meeting over in LSBB for a healthy breakfast and a conversation about physical activity in our schools. So I hope that you have that on your calendar. Thanks.
Representative Gardner. And Fields. Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker and colleagues.
Good morning, colleagues. Listen up.
Yes, please. We are here to invite you to the Crime Victims' Rights Caucus. That's going to be this coming Thursday, March 20th from 7:30 to 8:45. We're going to be in House Committee Room 109. And the theme and the topic is going to be on restorative justice and victim impact.
Representative Lee, restorative justice and victim impact on Thursday morning at 7:30, Crime Victims' Rights Caucus, 0109. Representative Fields and I will be there. Hope you will join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. In continuing with your listening intently, and to continue with your Thursday where you can have another free meal, not only breakfast with the Victim Rights Caucus, but at noon in room 111, the Sportsman's Caucus will be meeting. If you will recall, we had a resolution on the fish hatcheries and the threat in Colorado to the fish hatcheries, so the program will be the threats to the national fish hatcheries in Colorado, 12 to 1 o'clock, room 111. The famous hot dogs are back, and we brought twice the number of hot dogs as last month, so please be sure to come noon to 1 o'clock Thursday. You should have the announcements on your desk. Thank you.
Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this evening, Tuesday, March 18th, 5:30 to 7:30, the Colorado Stone, Sand, and Gravel Association will be having a networking meet and greet at the Denver Press Club, 1330 Glenarm Place. Hope you all can make it.
Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, we will proceed to our next order of business, third reading of bills, final passage. Members, please return to your desks. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1267.
House Bill 1267, Representative Fisher, Senator Jones, concerning authorization for political subdivision of the state to release black-footed ferrets on its land.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1267 on third reading and final passage.
You've heard the motion. Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1267 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative McNulty. Close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 25 no votes, 0 excused, and 1 absent, House Bill 1267 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 119.
Senate Bill 119 by Senator Heath, also Representatives Hollinghurst and Del Grosso, concerning decriminalization of certain prohibited practices by persons engaged in lobbying.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 119 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 119 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 64 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 1 absent, Senate Bill 119 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1260.
House Bill 1260, Representative Footall, Senator Johnson, concerning the creation of 3 mandatory minimum presumptive ranges for defendants convicted of felony sex offense involving intrusion against a child who is under 12 years of age when the adult defendant is at least 10 years older. That was one of the ranges starting at 10 years as the minimum in the range in connection with creating an indeterminate lifetime sentence with a mandatory minimum presumptive range of 10 to 16 years for a Class 4 felony, mandatory minimum presumptive range of 18 to 32 years for a Class 3 felony, and mandatory minimum presumptive range of 24 to 48 years for a Class 2 felony.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1260 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Foote. Members, we had a spirited debate on this bill yesterday. The question of whether it should or should not be called Jessica's Law, as well as some other very substantive issues. I am supporting this bill because during second reading it was amended with the language, if the defendant is placed on parole, the parole board shall order the defendant to wear electronic monitoring for the duration of his or her period of parole. Based on my experience with Jessica's Law, my having run electronic monitoring bills several years ago that I was unable to pass due to the fiscal impact, I believe, and thank you, Representative Nordberg, for running this amendment. This is important. I wish that we were able to do 25 years to life. We have not done so, but this bill is a definite improvement. My hope is that the Senate leaves this provision alone. I know that the bill needs some refinement because as we went through second reading, I think we've got some glitch still in the bill, but the electronic monitoring is an important piece, and it is the reason I am going to be a yes vote and urge you to be a yes as well.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday I called the move to name this bill Jessica's Law a trashy political stunt. I stand by that. But I am not one to ignore progress. And this bill is progress. While I disagree with the way in which Representative Foote has gone about getting to the point where we are, the bill was improved with Representative Nordberg's amendment. Representative Nordberg, thank you for taking on that task. I think the bill could have been improved with other amendments, but the majority chose not to allow those amendments to be considered. So we'll see what happens in the Senate. But it is a positive move that this issue is finally being debated on the House floor under Democratic leadership. We have not had that before. I'm pleased that we have it now, though the debate was not as full and robust yesterday as it ought to have been, considering longer sentences for those who commit heinous crimes against children. But this bill is better than what we have. And with that in mind, I am not willing to toss aside a third of a loaf if the only other option in front of us is no loaf at all. So colleagues, while this is minimal progress, it is progress. And I ask for your support of House Bill 1260.
Madam Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, I enjoyed the debate. I have wanted this debate since last year, since I first brought the bill title of Jessica's Law, which would give a mandatory 25 to life year sentence for people who rape our most vulnerable children. You know, what I've seen in the 4 years I've been in this body is sometimes things move quickly and fast, and we can get from point A to point Z in one try. But sometimes I see it where we have to go from point A to point B to point C. And that's how I see this. Point A are the laws we have on the books right now. House Bill 1260 is point B. It's a baby step. And that baby step will keep those that harm our children in jail a little bit longer. I would vote for a bill that kept those people behind bars, even if it was 1 day longer, because that would give a reprieve to the kids of this state. And that's what we're supposed to do in this body. Although I would like it to be a 25 to life sentence, and I will keep fighting for that because I believe our kids deserve it. I believe our state deserves it. I believe it would be good for our state. I want to thank Representative Foote for at least addressing the issue that I brought to the forefront last year. At least somebody did something. We could have, just put Jessica's Law in committee and let it die once again and never talked about it as a body. But I'm grateful that we're at least talking about it now. And I'm grateful that last year's bill spurred that on. Members, I hope we can keep talking about it. And I hope we can move now, either from point B to point C, or from point B to point Z. I urge for an aye vote to make sure that we protect our most vulnerable children. Thank you.
Is there any further? Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House Bill 1260 is a strong bill. This is a bill that's going to increase mandatory minimums on the worst of the worst sex offenders in this state. It's going to increase it from where it is now to a much higher level. It's actually going to also add a mandatory minimum in a couple spots where we don't have it now. This is a strong bill, and it's also a smart bill. It does it in a way that is right for Colorado, is right for our state, as opposed to any other state. It's going to make our community safer. It's going to send a message to anyone out there and everyone out there that we don't tolerate these types of offenses against children, that we will go after the worst of the worst and put you away for a long, long time. You know, members, it's a great privilege to serve down here, and I'm sure everyone in this chamber agrees. We have a great privilege to be here to represent our constituents in the state. We should never forget, though, that with great privilege, we have great responsibility. We have great responsibility to look at our bills thoroughly, to be thoughtful, and when we put forth a bill, to put forth a bill that actually works here in Colorado. And not just to take some other state's language, cut it and paste it and drop it into our statutes, into our laws, and expect that it's going to work. We have a great responsibility to be more thoughtful than that. That's what this bill does. This bill is a strong bill that will put the worst of the worst away for a very long time. And it does it in a way that works for Colorado, in a way that will allow us to adopt Jessica's Law for Colorado. So I appreciate the debate. I appreciate what appears to be bipartisan support for House Bill 1260, and I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1260 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Everett, close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1260 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Proceed to our next order of business, general order, second reading of bills. Representative Buckner. You've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the House will resolve itself in the committee whole for consideration of general orders. Representative Buckner will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill of length. The committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon request of the majority leader. The Cope rule is relaxed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1253 and House Bill 1282 to the end of the calendar.
Bills will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 14062?
Senate Bill 62 by Senator Guzman, also Representatives Foote and Gardner, concerning reinstatement of the parent-child legal relationship.
Mr. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 62, and there is no committee report.
To the bill, Mr. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm pleased to bring this bill along with my friend and colleague, Representative Foote. As with some of the other recent issues, we have had a lot of good work on issues related to legal matters. This one is reinstatement of the parent-child relationship. This allows for the reestablishment of parental rights after termination of those rights in very limited circumstances. And it will be ultimately up to the court as to whether those rights are reinstated. When this was heard in committee, we heard very compelling testimony from the Office of Child Representative, the Colorado Children and Family Agencies, and others about a limited number of cases in which parents have had their rights terminated due to problems with the criminal justice system, substance abuse problems, and then many years later, a handful of these cases, the child has not been placed, would like to be with his or her parents again, and the parent, as often as not, more often than not, the mother, has restored her life to a point where we could restore the parent-child relationship. We want to create this opportunity. It's good for families. It's good for the system. It's sound. It will have judicial oversight. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Gardner. I really appreciate you running the bill with me on the House side here. And this is a good bill. It's something that will be used in a limited amount of circumstances with a focus on safety. There's a lot of guardrails here to make sure that that we're not putting the child into a dangerous situation again. And it can really help the maybe half dozen or 10 children that we can affect per year on this. So I would also ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of Senate Bill 62? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 62. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate Bill 62 passes. Mr. Colo, could you please read the title of House Bill 14-1282? Oh, I'm sorry. 14-1282 was that? Would you please read the title of House Bill 14-1161?
House Bill 1161 by Representative Garcia, also Senator Crowder, concerning interstate rail service in southern Colorado in connection with creating a commission and a fund for the purpose of encouraging Amtrak to continue Southwest Chief Rail Line service at all current Colorado stops, expanding such service to include a stop in Pueblo and studying the potential benefits of extending such service to include a stop in Walsenburg.
Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 1161 and the Appropriations Committee report and the Local Government Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. To this committee report.
Mr. Chair, the Appropriations Committee report adopted Amendment L003 and 002, which was allowing for an appropriation sections for gifts and grants. In addition, the Pueblo Area Labor Council of Government has allocated $8,000 to help us with the fiscal note on this, and CDOT has offered their staff at no additional cost.
The question before us is discussion of the committee report, or is there any further discussion of the committee report? Seeing none, the issue before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Garcia. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Representative Garcia. To the Local Government Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in this committee, there was an additional amendment added to ensure that the both majority party and minority party would be represented in this committee.
Is there any further discussion of the committee report from local government? Seeing none, the question is before us is the passage of local government committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Say no. Committee report passes. On to the appropriations report, Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, House Bill 1161 creates a commission and a fund for the purpose of continuing passenger rail. This bill is critical for rural communities in southern and southeastern Colorado. It will help boost the local economies, increase tourism, and expand transportation opportunities for rural Colorado. I ask for an aye vote.
To the bill. The question before us is a passage of House Bill 141161. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1161 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to the House Bill 1180.
House Bill 1180, Representative Becker, Senator Talk Trop, considering sunset review the regulation of outfitters to taking wildlife by the Director of the Division of Professions and Occupations in connection with implementing the recommendations contained in the sunset report per the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1180 and the committee report from Ag, Livestock, and Natural Resources.
To the committee report, Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report from Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resources made a technical amendment.
Is there any further discussion of the Agriculture and Livestock Committee report? Question before us is the passage of the Agriculture and Livestock report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say no. Ayes have it. Committee report is passed. Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1180, the Sunset Review for Outfitters and Guides Act. This is a sunset review that continues the Outfitters and Guides Act for another 11 years, provides opportunity for the director to do discipline, revises language related to alcohol and drug use, and makes other technical changes. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion of House Bill 1180? Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I applaud Representative Becker for all her hard work on this, and I appreciate the intent behind the sunset. And I thought first this would be a good thing, but then again, it's just one more regulation on a particular industry and group, so I do urge a no vote.
Any further discussion of House Bill 1180? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1180. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1180 passes. Mr. Kohler, could you read the title of House Bill 1207?
House Bill 1207, Representative Young, also Senator Aguilar, concerning the creation of the Household Medication Take-Back Program.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1207 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee, Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee report simply added an appropriations clause based on a revised fiscal note. I ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Question before us. Is there any further discussion of the committee report? The question before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say no. Committee report is passed. Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I urge the passage of House Bill 1207. This is a household medication take-back program. Actually, a pilot project already exists, but what we needed to do is move this into statute so we could provide limited liability to those facilities, businesses, and organizations that want to host a drop box for these medications. And so moving it into statute allowed us to do that. It also allowed us to create a cash fund. I think in the long run, the idea of this bill is to allow more gifts, grants, and donations to expand the program. But at this point, they're simply trying to establish this in statute and work with the existing donations they have. So I urge an aye vote on the bill.
Any further discussion of the bill? Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you running the bill, Representative Young. Before third reading, I will be bringing you my bag of prescription drugs for you to take back. Thank you.
Any further discussion of the bill? Seeing none, the Question before us is passage of House Bill 1207. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. House Bill 1207 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1221.
House Bill 1221, Representatives Exum and Rankum, all Senator Talktrop, concerning continuation of the regulation of fire suppression contractors by the Division of Fire Prevention and Control in connection with implementing the recommendations of the 2013 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1221 and the committee report on local government.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report on local government was just a strike from the townhouse and substitute townhouse that is not regulated by the Colorado Board of Plumbers. And we urge aye vote on the committee report on local government.
Any other discussion of committee report? Question before us is the passage of the local committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Committee report is passed. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was a bill to renew, it was a sunset bill to renew the regulation of fire suppression contractors. It actually did two things. It creates a new category for residential inspectors. It also strengthens reporting at the recommendation of the regulating agency. There was some concern about the adequacy of drawings, and when they were rejected, was that being reported. So that was strengthened. I will say that Representative Exum, being an ex-fire suppression firefighter himself, was an excellent resource on this. We had an outstanding, just an outstanding stakeholder meeting, and we came up, I think, with a really good bill to continue this regulation.
Any further discussion of Representative Giroux?
No, I'll go over here. Sometimes I'm more comfortable. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I was curious about, Representative Rankin, when you guys were talking about the drawings. Now, typically, you use architectural drawings and the fire suppression engineer, I think it's a water engineer that they use, will just redline the drawings, and that's what becomes the drawings. Are they proposing some other method?
Representative Rankin.
No, I don't believe the method changed. The problem was that in some cases those drawings were initially rejected and that was never reported. So the quality of drawings as they came up through the system was not being reported, is my understanding.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now, they were rejected by the building department, I'm assuming? Is that who rejected them? And if they're rejected, it's usually revise and resubmit.
Representative Rankin.
That's correct. And when they were revised and resubmitted at some point, that was not reported. But the real problem was the qualifications of the inspector. You know, there's no specific category for the people who were inspecting those drawings. And at some point, when they were rejected, that was not reported. So the overall process was suspect, as I understand it.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so are you saying that the building departments were suspect? The inspectors at the plan reviewers at the building department, they were suspect?
As I understand it, that's an unknown. I mean, there were some complaints from constituents that building drawings were making it all the way through the process. It was impossible to determine exactly where the problem was, and the department wanted better reporting of as the drawing went through the process, is my understanding.
Any further discussion of the bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1221. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. House Bill 1221 is passed. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title to House Bill 1227?
House Bill 1227, Representative General Senator Nicholson, concerning the sunset review of the State Board of Dental Examiners connection therewith, continuing the board and implementing the recommendations contained in the sunset report provided by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1227, the Dental Practice Act, and I move it as amended.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first committee report is the appropriations, and I move the
Excuse
appropriations
me, Representative Janot. Would you move the committee report, please?
I move the appropriations report.
Oh,
There are 3 committee reports.
the first one is health insurance and environment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the appropriations report. I also.
Okay. I'm sorry. To the appropriation committee report, please, Representative Janot. I'm sorry.
Thank you,
confused
Mr.
that.
Chair. The appropriations report is I know. It funded cash funds that were collected from licenses for dentists and dental hygienists. The fee increased the anticipated base on changes in the bill, approximately $14 for both dentists and hygienists. It made several changes to the board and to the act, and this bill is expected to increase expenditures to the Division of Professions and Occupations in Indora by $109,000 and 1.3 FTEs in the fiscal year 2014-15 and 95,000 in 2015-16. The costs are in addition to the continuation of base expenditures of the program in the fiscal year 2015-16. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of appropriations committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the appropriations committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Say no. Ayes have it. To the Health Insurance and Environment Committee, Representative Janot.
Mr. Chair, I move the Finance Committee report.
Oh.
There is no Finance Committee report.
There were no amendments to the Finance Committee report. Mr. Chair, I move the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Janot. Report.
Basically, what the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report did was several things. It changed the sunset date to 2025. It cleaned up language regarding dental hygienist licensing exams and provided technical changes to current statute for professional liability. It provided rulemaking authority for continuing education credits, for clinical skills, as well as inactive and retired licenses. And it, again, had more technical changes for professional liability. I ask for an aye vote on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Health Insurance and Environmental report? Seeing none, question before us is the passage of the Health Insurance and Environmental report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Report is passed. On to the bill, Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1227 is the Dental Practice Act Sunset Review Bill, and there were 3 priority recommendations of the dentists and the hygienists, and one was anesthesia permits, including pediatric permits, reinspection of dental facilities at the time of reissuance of permits, and training requirements. This is the single highest risk procedure a dentist engages in, and we must have clear oversight to ensure patient safety. The second was limited prescriptive authority for hygienists in collaboration with a dentist, and this is an agreement worked out between the dentists and the hygienists and will allow greater access to oral health care. Also, continuing education for dentists and hygienists. Simply stated, we are the only state in the nation without continuing education requirements, and both the dentists and the dental hygienists wanted to have continuing education requirements. Mr. Mr. Chair, at this point in time, I have an amendment, and I ask that it be properly displayed. I move the amendment and ask for L006 and ask for it to be properly displayed.
The motion. What did you do? Oh,
Just an amendment.
L006 has been moved and properly displayed.
L006 has been moved and properly displayed.
Well, it's going to be properly displayed.
Well, it's on the way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment allows...
Representative Janot, I'm sorry, it's not displayed
I'm sorry.
yet.
Moved and properly displayed to the amendment.
The amendment has been moved and properly displayed to the amendment, Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simply put, this allows dentists to voluntarily enter into a confidential agreement, such as a peer assistant program, within 30 days of a drug or alcohol offense. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative De Grosso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Janal, is this going to affect the fiscal note? Because we've seen other bills where they set up a peer assistance fund, and it basically adds a fee onto every person so they can pay for this. So is this going to change the fiscal note? And if it does, what's the fee that's going to be charged to every practicer, and how much will that fee be?
Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Del Grosso. There will not be an additional fee associated with this amendment.
Representative Del Grosso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So then how are we, that would be my question, is how are we going to pay for it? You can't set up this fund and a whole new piece to the bill and have it not cost anything. Did the department somehow say they're going to absorb this and so we can pay for it out of existing funds? How was that worked out?
Representative Janot.
Thank you, Representative Del Grosso. Yes, it will be out of the existing funds that are currently available.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Representative Janal, if it's out of the existing funds, number one, what is the fund amount that is going to be absorbed by the department? And number two, what is the population that we're talking about? How many are we talking about? How many offenders per year? After you go through this, do they go into a standard drug rehab program? Take this a little further.
Representative Janot.
Thank you, Representative Giroux. This is purely a voluntary situation. Within 30 days, if a dentist gets arrested for an alcohol offense, they must enter into this peer assistance program, and otherwise there'll be consequences, legal consequences.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding that there already is a peer review assistance program. So what this amendment does is just say that if someone is arrested, then they have to be referred to it. So it's not an additional cost. It's simply saying that if they are arrested, they have to self-refer. So it doesn't add a new, it's not adding a new board, if you will.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative McCann, thank you for the clarification. I'm not sure that the bill sponsor was aware of it. I will ask my three questions again. How much are we talking about that this program costs? How many individuals are impacted per year? And after they go through this program, do they go into drug rehab? What do they go into?
Representative Janot.
Representative Giroux, there is no cost to this program. There are minimal violations to this. I can't give you an exact number. Maybe someone else can. But This is purely a program that's voluntary and that is confidential, and hopefully it will help the professional in getting back on their feet again.
Representative Jerome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Representative Janal, the problem is that nothing is voluntary and doesn't cost something. Something always does have a cost associated to it. And the third question I asked you that's never been answered is what happens to the individual after they go through this voluntary program. This is an amendment that I'm not faulting the amendment. What I'm doing is I'm faulting the timing of the amendment. This is an amendment that should have been presented in committee, or quite honestly, should be presented in committee in the Senate. This isn't an amendment that should be coming to the floor of the House, particularly when the sponsor doesn't have an answer to the questions that have been asked of her. So, members, I mean, I don't care where you are on this amendment. We know it's going to pass, but I'm just saying that this is not representative of the kind of work that we want to do here in the chamber. We want to be able to actually present substantive amendments like this in committee so that the committee of reference, which has a whole lot more expertise than I do, would be able to actually discuss it and have input. By doing it now here at this point, we don't have staff that can give us the information that I asked for. And we don't have a clear idea of exactly what happens once a person goes through this. Do they go through the standard rehab? Is there some requirement before they can go back and practice? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after this. And because of that, I think it's actually the timing of this amendment is very poorly timed.
Is there any further discussion of this? Representative Jerome. Janal, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the same program. All it is the peer assistance program is making sure that if there is a violation for drug or alcohol, that they report that within 30 days. And so it's not adding any extra cost to the program.
Representative McGann.
Thank you, Representative Mr. Chair. So if you look at the Sunset Review booklet, the Sunset Review that Dora did for the State Board of Dental Examiners, there's a section on page 20 that talks about the peer assistance program. It's already set up. It's administered by a nonprofit organization, and dentists may enroll in the program directly, or the board may refer dentists to the program in lieu of disciplinary action. The program is funded by a fee that is included in the renewal fee for licensed dentists, and it's capped at $100 per year per license. So it's already being funded by a fee, and we're not going to be increasing the fee.
Representative Jerome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative McCann, you are the best person. You answered the questions that I asked, and there absolutely is a fee. Nothing is free down here. I just wanted everybody to understand that nothing is free. And I appreciate the fact that you were able to pull the Dora report out, which is exactly why this amendment should have been offered in committee. But I appreciate you coming up and saving today. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion of Amendment L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L006. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. L006 is passed. To the bill, Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would move Amendment L005 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment L005 has been properly moved and is being displayed. To the amendment, Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the committee hearing, we talked about the fact that the current bill requires, before a complaint is submitted, that the person submitting the complaint will notify the patient and obtain from the patient confirmation of the facts alleged in the complaint. And we had some question about whether it was appropriate for the patient to actually have to confirm the facts before a complaint was filed. This provision was suggested by one of the dental practices on the basis that sometimes, because of competition, dentists might file a complaint with the dental board that isn't necessarily substantiated, and that the testimony was that that's being done because of the competition between dentists. So I was not comfortable with obtaining from the patient confirmation of the facts alleged in the complaint. So we worked out an agreement with the dental practice that raised this issue to change the language and say the patient has to be notified before filing the complaint, but there's no requirement that the patient confirm the facts or approve the filing of the complaint. So that's the basis for L005.
Any further discussion? Representative Jerome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative McCann, if I'm a dentist and you and I have both treated the same patient, and that patient comes to you after I've treated that patient, and you feel that something has been done that was inappropriate with that patient's care, that you would be able to go and file a complaint, or before you could file a complaint against that dentist, you would have to, you as the dentist would have to notify the patient that you were going to file the complaint. I guess I didn't realize dentists were so predatory.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't either, Representative Giroux, and I wasn't real thrilled with this provision to begin with. But the members of the committee felt that we should keep, they actually voted to keep the language as it currently is in the statute. But the dental practice that raised this issue is comfortable with simply notification of the patient. And I think there were some members of the committee who felt like it wasn't really appropriate for my subsequent dentist to conclude that my former dentist was committing malpractice or was not treating me well, and file a complaint without me knowing about it. So the idea is, yes, the patient will be notified, but the patient doesn't have to agree. Patient doesn't have to confirm the facts. So the subsequent dentist can still file the complaint. They just have to notify the patient.
Representative Minotti.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Representative Jerome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Representative McCann, then, if I'm understanding you, because this is very different from any profession that I'm used to working with. I mean, even architects aren't like this. But you presented the amendment, or the amendment was presented in committee, and the committee of reference voted it down, is what I'm hearing you say. No, they did not vote it down. Okay. Well, and I think this is the point in time where Representative Singer wants to come up here and lecture us all on running all these amendments on second reading. That's what he does on our side of the aisle.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, if my memory is correct, which sometimes it isn't, but I tried to strike the whole section in committee, and that was roundly defeated, as I recall. Was it a different amendment? I thought it was. At any rate, there was discussion in the committee about this whole provision, and my suggestion was to eliminate it entirely, but my recollection is the committee did not want to do that, and so this is sort of a compromise amendment.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative McCann, thank you for your continued work on this. I supported the amendment in committee. I was opposed to you in committee. However, that worked out because there was the draft and then there was the bill, and there were two separate discussions. But regardless of how that played out, I appreciate the fact that you're bringing L005. I think that this strikes a delicate balance, but a balance nonetheless. So I will be supporting your amendment. Thank you.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also believe this is a good amendment. This is something that we vetted thoroughly in committee and still had some unanswered questions. And so I appreciate you working with the stakeholders to find a good common balance here. And I'll reserve any lectures for a third reading.
Any further discussion of the amendment? Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a friendly amendment, and I ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion of the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L005. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. On to the bill, Representative Janot.
Thank you, Mr.
L005
Chair.
is passed.
I move House Bill 141227 as amended and ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion on House Bill? Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend Representative Janal for her extremely hard work on this bill. This was a very difficult bill because it's very detailed and very complicated, and it was really refreshing to see the dental hygienists and the dentists come in unison together to support this massive sunset review and this bill. So I just want to Representative Janal worked very, very hard to get everyone to agreement. So I just wanted to compliment her on her work and ask for your support.
Any further discussion of House Bill 1227? Seeing none, the question before us is passage of House Bill 1227. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1227 is passed. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title of House Bill 1288? I don't see 1308. 1308.
House Bill 1308, Representative Jarrell, Senator Stebbins, concerning procedures for Department of Variant Appropriation.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1308. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a joint budget committee bill that's actually been given to me because it's probably going to upset you guys, and it's something I really believe in, and this should give you all an opportunity to come down and yell at me. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1308? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1308. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1308 is passed. On to Senate Bill 4104. Mr. Kohler, please read.
Senate Bill 104 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Duran, concerning the disposition of disputed payments of tobacco litigation settlement monies received by the state.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 104 is a joint budget committee, and basically what it'll do is stop the IOU process that we have right now when it comes to disputed payments of tobacco litigation settlement monies. And instead, the bill will require that any disputed payments received to be deposited to the tobacco litigation settlement cash fund for the purposes of reducing the amount of tobacco settlement funds that are allocated in the year in which they are received. So basically, we're stopping the IOU that currently exists, and so I ask for your support.
Representative Duran, would you move the bill, please?
I did move it.
Not according to...
I moved Senate Bill 108. 104.
Thank you very much.
I moved Senate Bill 104. Yeah, I know.
Is there any further discussion of...
I ask for your support.
Any further discussion of Senate Bill 104? Seeing none, the question before us is passage of Senate Bill 104. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 104 is passed. Mr. Kohler, would you please read Senate Bill 106?
Senate Bill 106 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Giroux, concerning the appropriation of federal mineral lease monies from the local government permanent fund of the Department of Local Affairs in connection with making appropriation.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 106. There is no committee report.
The bill's been moved
To the bill.
to the bill. I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Representative
Thank
Giroux.
you, Mr. Chair. Members, what this does is it's something for Representative Rankin. He's really happy with it. So are a lot of smaller communities in western Colorado. But it does give a lot of money to western Colorado, $4.3 million. But if you want to come down and argue about it, I'd certainly welcome that opportunity. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion of Senate Bill 106? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 106. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Senate Bill 106 is passed. Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 109.
I'm sorry, I thought you were doing something else. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 109?
Senate Bill 109 by Senator Seminole serves in May concerning the use of the Prevention, Early Detection, and Treatment Fund in connection with eliminating the annual transfer of $2 million from the fund of the Department of Healthcare Policy and Finance for Medicaid disease management treatment programs to address cancer, heart disease, lung disease, or risk factors associated with those diseases, increasing the amount annually appropriated from the Fund of the Prevention Services Division of the Department of Public Health and Environment for the Cancer, Cardiovascular Disease, and Chronic Pulmonary Disease Prevention, Early Detection, and Treatment Program by $2 million.
Good job, Mr. Kohler. Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 14109. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Mr. Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All this bill does is stop the transfer from public health to healthcare policy and finance because they do not have prevention programs. It puts it back in public health so they can be used in the manner that they were intended. I simply ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion of Representative Giroux?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Representative May, you actually said what the bill was all about, and you didn't ask anybody to argue with you. You understand something about human services, don't you, Representative May?
Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I try on a daily basis. Thank you.
Any further discussion of Senate Bill 109? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 109. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. No. Ayes have it. Senate Bill 109 is passed. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 110?
Senate Bill 110 by Senator Seminole, Representative Giroux concerning General Assembly's development of recommendations regarding new methods of financing the state's ongoing capital construction needs.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 110. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm going to be serious about this one because this is a more important bill. This is Senate Bill 110 actually helps the General Assembly develop recommendations regarding new methods of financing of the state's ongoing capital construction needs. I could tell you more about this bill, but what I'd like to do is see how many bills we can get through before we have to adjourn in 10 minutes. So unless you have any questions, I ask for an aye vote on Senate Bill 110.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 110? Seeing none, the question before us is passage of Senate Bill 110. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 110 is passed. Mr. Kohler, would you please... Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1288 to the end of the calendar.
House Bill 1288 will be laid over to the end of the calendar as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 132.
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Crowder, also Representatives Gardner and Exum concerning the repeal of the requirement that a soldier be killed while deployed to a combat zone to issue a fallen soldier license plate.
Representative Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 132, and there's no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was glad to bring this bill with Representative Gardner. We heard a compelling testimony from two of the moms of fallen soldiers. One was in a combat zone and one was not. And we think that this is the right thing to do to honor those, whether they're in a combat zone or not, honoring those those memories. And we ask for your aye support.
Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Exum, for being a co-prime sponsor with me. Members, you may recall a little over 2 months ago when the governor gave his State of the State speech, he mentioned that he had been contacted by a Gold Star mom from Colorado Springs whose son was killed in the line of duty but not in a combat zone. He had done, as I recall, 2 tours in a combat zone and was highly decorated, but was killed in a training accident. And she wanted, as a Gold Star mom, to have this fallen soldier license plate, but the way the legislation is written, it does not permit it. This bill fixes that. It is a good fix. It is a good statement. These Gold Star moms, when you visit with them, their sacrifice is unimaginable. I know Representative Exum shares my thoughts on that. So we ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion of Senate Bill 132? Seeing none, the question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 132. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 132 is passed. Mr. Kohler, could you please read the title of House Bill 1057?
House Bill 1057, Representative Navarro, also Senator Keating, concerning the Colorado Fraud Investigators Unit.
Representative Navarro.
I move House Bill 1057. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this bill is to raise the amount that Colorado Fraud Investigating Unit can collect from UCC filings.
Is there any further discussion of House Bill? Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Navarro, I do recall this conversation, albeit briefly, in finance. The question was whether or not the increase by the Secretary of State by this bill was going to increase the filing fees on the businesses of Colorado. And as I understood it, that was a possibility under this bill. So are the fees for our businesses in Colorado going to increase? And just want to clarify that for the record.
Representative Navarro.
I have spoken to the Secretary of State's office, and he has assured me that we will not be increasing these fees. They will remain at $8.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I remember correctly, that in Judiciary, when we heard this bill, they didn't give that assurance. In fact, they said that it's quite possible that they might have to raise fees, and particularly since that they have budgetary problems. So did they say one thing in Judiciary and then flip to another part of it in Finance?
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1057 until tomorrow.
House Bill 1057 will be laid over tomorrow at the request of the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
No objection.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
Thank you, Captain.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of Committee of the Whole. Mr. Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs leave reports under consideration following attached bills being second reading thereof and makes following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1161 amended, 1180 amended, 1207 amended, 1221 amended, 1227 amended, 1308 passed on second reading in order of gross placed on the counter for third and final passage. Senate Bill 62, 104, 106, 109, 110, 132 passed on second reading in order of revised placed on the counter for third and final passage. House Bill 1057 laid over until March 19th, retaining its place on the calendar. Representative Buckner. You've heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine. And members proceed to vote on adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Representatives Humphrey, May, and Pedersen.
I have a blank one of these forms for Representative Quorum. I can't remember anything. Yeah, just.
Close the machine with 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. The report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For those of you that are stressed out and or sore from something, the massage therapists are here today from 9 till 1 in the old Supreme Court. So if you have some time, go get yourself a massage.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we have someone very special here today who is visiting us. Her name is Sabri Morris, and she is the Colorado Military Youth of the Year with the Boys and Girls Clubs. She represents Buckley Air Force Base and is in my district, and she's here with her family, so please stand up and be recognized. Thank you, members.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the Colorado Oil and Gas Association is having a discussion Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning, and it's about the conversation about de-escalating the fracking wars. And there's going to be a lot of information there. Many of you are perhaps unfamiliar with the concept of fracking, or maybe you've heard a lot about it. I'd urge you to attend this seminar and get more information about it so we can have a conversation about the future of oil and gas in Colorado. Thank you.
Representative Williams.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at the, excuse me.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry. It's at the Cassie office, conference room, 1600 Broadway, Suite 1000, 7:30 a.m. Thank you.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Business, Labor, Economic Workforce Development Committee, we will meet today in the old Supreme Court chambers. We will hear House Bill 141295, 141312, and House Bill 141318 will be laid over until Thursday. Remember, the old Supreme Court chambers at 1:30.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resources Committee, and any other members who are interested, we're hearing two presentations tomorrow at 7:30 in House Committee Room 107 as part of our joint House and Senate Ag Committee meetings. We'll be receiving a briefing on the Resource-Rich Colorado study from the Metro Chamber and Metro Economic Development Corporation, and then a presentation on food and job sustainability by the Global Universal Listening and Finance, or Licensing and Finance, sorry.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have asked for permission to be excused.
You can be absent any day you want, but if you want to be excused, you need to ask permission.
I've asked permission from the Majority Leader and the Assistant Minority Leader, and have been told I may be excused if you approve. On Monday, the 24th.
Monday, the 24th. Representative Scott will be excused as requested. You upset Representative Giroux that you're not going to be here. Any other announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon, at which time we will adjourn until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon. Good luck in committees. We'll see you back here at 9 a.m.